Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but I disappeared for a little bit, and this is like my third video in 1 week, and I know that's probably like really confusing. You're like, what is going on? But honestly, there's a bunch of reasons why I disappeared. One of the big reasons is I kind of just surrounded myself around the wrong YouTubers. I had these people put these things in my head, and then I just saw that as YouTube. Like, I thought there was nothing more to YouTube than this, you know what I mean? Like, very money hungry, view hungry, like just you need this, you need this, you need this, and there's no fun. No one ever mentioned fun. All I ever heard was money, and then I just got really pushed away from it. But the thing is like there is so much creativity on YouTube. It's just I was very caught up in the world of just money hungry people. I'm gonna talk about one that really has messed me up. Today I'm going to talk about a guy named Bryan Stars. Bryan Stars. Bryan Stars. Everyone is kind of scared to really say his name because this guy likes to threaten lawsuits. But the thing is for me is like, I don't mind getting sued because I think it would help my street cred, honestly. I mean, I don't have a sex tape. I don't have nudes. Like, I don't have anything scandalous. It's like, yo, sue me, dog. I need this. I need this. I'm just kidding. Don't sue me. I don't want this in my life right now. I got a lot going for me. Or actually, no, I don't. We'll talk about that later because someone told me I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm just going to get right to the topic. I'm talking about Bryan Stars. He was an interviewer. I found him through a Never Shout Never interview because I was super big fan of Never Shout Never in my teen years, and he did an interview that I really enjoyed, and then he did another one that I didn't really enjoy because I thought Christopher Drew was just like this dick, and I was like, oh my god, and I made a response video to Bryan Stars' video being like, Bryan, you didn't deserve that, like, I saw Christopher Drew's, I don't know, I keep touching my hair, I saw his true colors, blah blah blah, and then basically Bryan like tweeted me, and then we became friends, and then he was like, oh, I want to interview you, and I was like, yeah, of course. So that was our first encounter ever. Our first encounter was an interview in 2013. I had a lot of anxiety issues and stuff, and I was really scared to do it. And I actually chickened out when he called me, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And then he showed up at my hotel, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'm just gonna say this was the most uncomfortable experience of my entire life. We did the interview, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. My friend was there. He was very uncomfortable. It was like 2 hours long. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me, but that doesn't matter. What matters is he had all these like rape jokes. There was actually a section of the video where he had us reenact rape, and I was very uncomfortable with it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know him very well. I was just in a position where I was like, what do I do? And I kept, there was another guy there. I don't remember who it was. There's like multiple people there, and I kept bringing the attention to them. I'll put a clip here.
We enacted a blowjob together.
This is, yeah.
We did we enacted,
I feel like I learned a lot
did we enact
today.
the word rape? We didn't. We should have though. We should
really should have.
Should just want to reenact that real quick? Let's do it. Come on. Alright, the three of us need to reenact the word rape, and then we're gonna finish. Alright. Alright, this is our interpretation of a rape.
This is bad, man. You're making a joke about rape?
No, it's not really. Alright, alright, so
no.
You'll be the victim.
Oh, this sounds so
Actually,
sad.
I'll be the victim. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to rape you. But yeah, in that interview, I just was so uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable, and I remember texting him. I was like, dude, if you could, just please don't upload that. And he was like, no, it's cool. Like, I spent so much time, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have to do this. Like, and I was like, well, I just don't really like it. I wasn't comfortable with what happened. And he didn't really care, and he did it anyways. And I was like, whatever. I think he told me to promote it, and I promoted it, despite the fact that I was very uncomfortable with the video. I just don't think rape is something we should joke about. It's a very serious topic. I know he did it in like a jokingly way, but I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with it. You're probably confused why I'm even talking about Bryan Stars, and you're probably like, who's Bryan Stars? Bryan Stars, like I said, he was an interviewer. Then he started a collab channel with a bunch of my friends, and I was actually approached to join this channel three times, and I declined. I'll talk about that later in the video. So the collab channel ended about 4 months ago, and he quickly, like instantly was like, I'm gonna start it over. So now he took the channel away from them. He bought the rights to the channel, which I don't know how he did that, but he owns the rights to the channel, and he's bringing it back with all new members, but with one original member. I wonder who that is. It's Bryan Stars. I'm just gonna say this here. He was definitely the least liked member, and I'm not saying that to be rude, but I mean, he only had like 2 videos on that channel that were just him. He just used other people to leech off of them. It was kind of like he didn't really need to be in the channel because he just put all the other members in his videos. Okay, I'm just gonna talk about my personal experiences with him to start this off. My first encounter was the interview. My second encounter was he convinced me to buy a flight to San Francisco because he was interviewing Sleeper and Sirens. He knew I was a big fan of Sleeper and Sirens, and he was like, you can meet Kellen, you can see how I interview, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. So I flew there. My now friend, Chris the Bunny, he introduced me to him. He picked me up from the airport with Bryan, blah, blah, blah. We went to the place to interview them. And this is where I got like a first red flag with Bryan. He was interviewing a band called Tonight Alive, and mid in the interview, he got a call from Kellen Quinn. He was like, oh, gotta take this. He walks away, like I'm pretty sure like Jenna, one of the members, was answering a question and he just disregarded them, took the phone call, and then went back and was like, sorry about that. Anyways, and they were just kind of like, what? I felt really uncomfortable with it. I was just in the room with Chris and I was like, this is really rude. Like, this is so disrespectful. Like, so rude. So we actually mentioned it later in the car ride, and we were like, dude, that was kind of rude. And he was like, oh no, like, they're a small band. Like, I can get away with things like that because I'm doing them a favor. I'm giving them exposure. And that was kind of his mindset with everything. It was always like, oh, I'm Bryan Stars. He's actually physically has said that. Like, because let's just skip to this. Bryan Stars is a very manipulative person. He doesn't take no for an answer. Like, if he wants something, he wants something. If he knows what will benefit himself, like, he'll go for it. And he saw me and like the support base I had with like the FIZZY family, etc. And he wanted that. He was like, ooh, I'm gonna benefit off this. So he convinced me to go on the Bryan Stars tour, a tour that he was holding with a few small bands and whatever. Like, I'm the type of person that's like, if I meet someone, I can kind of tell how they are, you know what I mean? Like, I just could tell that he was just a very, like, he wasn't gonna be like a genuine friend, but I always want to see the good in people, so I just kept like trying to be like, no, dude, it's cool, like, just like ignore it, give him a chance. So he convinced me to do this tour. All he wanted was me to be on there so I can bring ticket sales. He promised me like a percent. I ended up getting some sort of percent, but then I didn't even get paid for a majority of it, and the bands were really upset that I was on the tour. It was not really their fault, it was his fault for not really communicating with them, and it was a mess. But during this tour, a lot of the bands, and including me, had concerns with the tour. It was like a 4-hour long tour. Like, each show was like 4 hours long. It was a lot of gay jokes, a lot of just stuff that made the crowd really uncomfortable. And by the end of the show with the headliner band, half the people were gone because it was just so long. So we'd be like, hey, Bryan, like, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. And he was like, no, this is my tour. This is the Bryan Stars tour. Like, I know what sells. Like, have you seen the tweets about this? The kids eat this shit up. He only sees things one way, and that's the Bryan Stars way. He doesn't really care what anyone else thinks. It's just about what he thinks will work, because he thinks he knows everything, the in and outs of everything, and he just goes for it. And if you have an opinion about it, dude, don't even bother, because he's Bryan Stars. There was actually a time when I was just talking about an interviewer I liked on YouTube. I was just discussing it with him. I was like, yeah, there's this guy, he's really good. And he's like, no, I'm the best interviewer on YouTube. Like, if I had his resources, my interviews would be way better than his. He just has this ego, but I think it's like insecurity. Like, I honestly think there's a nice guy deep down inside, and that's why I've always stuck with Bryan. I've defended him so many times. You guys know this. I mean, maybe you don't, but if you go to my Twitter, you can dig deep. I've defended Bryan on so many levels. I'm just gonna say, I've never liked what he's really done online. When he was an interviewer, like, it was pretty cool. He was like this weird guy, like, wearing Aeropostale shirts, like, interviewing like metal bands and like pop punk bands, and like, it just didn't fit, and it was kind of cool. It was like, he had his thing, he found his niche, but then he just got really like, he wanted fangirls. He saw what other people were doing, and he was like, ooh, I need that. That's just when it got really bad. His Twitter just turned into like relatable stuff. He hired a staff so they would reply to everything, which, you know, a lot of people do that, but everyone thought it was him tweeting them. People would always be like, Bryan Stars noticed me. I'm like, Bryan Stars' team noticed you, not Bryan. But yeah, he would like steal things off of Tumblr, just relatable things, and it would, like, things that don't even apply to like him. Like, it would be like, oh, don't you hate when like your bra like doesn't fit? Like, just things that would just try to relate to kids, and like that had nothing to do with him. I know that a lot of people do that on the internet, but I'm using that as a small example, because that defines everything. He will literally do anything and everything to get views, get retweets, get attention, get fame, anything and everything. After the Bryan Stars tour, I never wanted to work with him ever again. I wanted nothing to do with him business-wise. As a friend, I wanted to be his friend. I just wanted a friend. I did not want to ever work with him ever again, because he was just egotistical, he was a control freak, and I just was not down for it. During one of the days on Bryan Stars tour, there was a kid named Johnny Gilbert. He was one of my fans / supporters. I don't like the word fan, but I was like his background picture. He would always talk about me on this website called YouNow. It's like a live streaming website. He would always broadcast after me on my channel, because there was like, back in the day, there was like a FIZZY family channel, and he was just really nice, really supportive, and he was like coming to the tour to meet me and stuff, and I was so excited. During that tour, he met Bryan. I don't know if he knew Bryan prior. I'm not really sure about that, but he met Bryan there, and Bryan just saw dollar signs. He's like, ching. He was like, he's the next Christopher Drew. He kept talking about that on the ride home. He saw potential in Johnny. Anyways, let's jump to Warped Tour. I went on Warped Tour in 2014. I was working with a thing called Peace Tea. It's a tea company. It's called Peace Tea. That's about it. The social media person, she actually introduced me to Kevin Lyman, the guy who owns and operates Warped Tour, and we were about to have a meeting, and Bryan saw that on Twitter. He saw a photo of us and all together or something, and he was like, oh, I need this. So he kind of threw himself into it, and I was worried about that because I was like, oh man, like another tour with Bryan, because like I said earlier, I never wanted to do business with Bryan again, and I know touring doesn't seem like business, but I never really wanted to be around business Bryan, because on tour, Bryan is business Bryan. Actually, you're gonna find this out later, Bryan is business Bryan 24/7, but at that moment, I thought it was just me because it was touring and blah, blah, blah. So I was terrified. And then we had the meeting and he just took control of it. It was just control freak Bryan again. I was like, oh God, the whole summer is gonna be like this. But it actually wasn't, because he wasn't super in charge. Like, we still got to have fun. I stayed out there every day meeting people. That's why I wanted to go on tour. I wanted to meet all of you guys. I grew up going to Warped Tour. I was so honored to be a part of Warped Tour. It was amazing, and I'm still so grateful for it. But during this time, it was just Bryan Stars still doing interviews. But right after, he decided, oh, I need the fangirls. I'm going to change my appearance. When he sees like me and like Johnny and different people, he just sees us as like hair. But as you can see, I don't give a fudge about my hair. I just got out of the shower. It doesn't, I don't know. It's just long. I need a haircut, honestly. He sees that as like the formula. He's like, oh, appearance is everything. Like, oh my God. So Bryan begins to change everything, and then if you would ask him why, he'd be like, oh, I wanted to appeal to the kids. I wanted to fit in with MDE. Once MDE formed, that's when Bryan really actually changed everything. He really wanted to fit in, and he would change everything he did and said just to appeal to the scene kids, as he would say. So MDE was about to start. He hit me up and he was like, hey, I'm gonna start a scene version of O2L. And if you didn't know what O2L was, it was a collab channel, and I was just like, okay, you're gonna be a scene version of something that already happened. That doesn't sound good. And secondly, you're gonna be my boss, you're gonna run this channel, I'm okay. So I declined respectfully, but I just wanted to be friends. I never wanted to do business with him, so I still saw him as a friend. I was just like, I'm not gonna do that, okay? So throughout the time of MDE being around, he actually asked me to join 3 different times. The 3rd time was one of the most intense experiences of my life, and I'm actually still kind of traumatized from it because it hurt my feelings. And it was like, this was coming from someone who I considered a friend, and I always wanted to be friends with them. When he moved out to LA, I was so excited because I don't know many people out here. I'm not super like LA, like, you know that. I'm just a mess, but I was just excited to have like friends, you know, live nearby. He was like living like 5 minutes away. I think I saw him only a few times. The 3rd time asking me to join MDE, there was this guy called Austin Jones, and I don't know if you know, but he was caught. Well, I kind of caught him. So I found out he has been asking young girls for like twerking videos and different videos, and he admitted that he would ask for these videos when he was horny.
I'm horny like all the time. So if we just keep talking, I'm probably gonna ask for videos on like a daily basis.
So you pretty much get off to young girls, like underage girls too, like twerking and doing these weird things. They were like legal because they weren't getting naked, but it was like a fetish. Like he would actually like, you know, to them. So I was bothered by this because, oh God, I'm just saying this all out of order and I'm so sorry. Basically, there was a YouTuber program on Warped Tour. I did it in 2014 with Bryan and a few of my other friends. And then the next year, Kevin went to Bryan and was like, hey, send me a list of people that you want to be on Warped Tour. Well, if you guys don't know, once MDE started, Bryan was just like, ching, 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 I can make money off all these kids. I'm gonna use these kids to build my own career, and that's all MDE was. And I saw through that, and Bryan told me he wanted to be a vlogger, and he wanted to have fangirls, and blah, blah, blah. And this was like his way of doing it. If he built a collab channel and had all these kids with like the look, and like he was really all about the appearance, and when he would talk about people, he's like, oh, they look like this, they're like the next Christopher Drew, or she has like this scene vibe, she's like the scene queen. Like he would always talk about people's image, and like the image sells, is like sex sell, like all that shit. So once MDE kept growing, he started to force people into a contract, and these friends were not really friends, they became Bryan's clients. So everyone was like forced into a contract if they wanted to be an MDE. I think there was only like 1 or 2 members that weren't in a contract, and eventually they did get forced to sign. So yeah, he started a management company, but in this management company, all he did was take 20% of everyone's income, but he did nothing for them. I could tell you very well that I had to help them do things that Bryan should have done as a manager. Like, I would have to go with Johnny to the post office and get him to send the merch back to their merch company. And I'm like, Bryan should be doing this. Bryan is your manager. He takes 20% of your money. Why is he sending this 17-year-old kid down to the post office who doesn't know how to do this stuff? Like, Bryan, you should be doing this, man. Like, Bryan didn't really care about management. He didn't really care about helping people. He just wanted to make money, and that's all Bryan cares about. And that's what the thing that bothers me the most is, like, this person doesn't care about anyone but himself. And that was, I knew it, like everyone would tell me, and I knew it, but I just wanted to see the best in him. And that's my problem with everyone. Like, I could tell you so many stories. I give so many people chances. I just want to see good in people, and I just believe that people have it in them to be a good person. But it's gotten to the point, it's not just me he's messed with, it's so many people. So I have to sit here and I want to clear it up and like bring attention to this. It's like, if it was just me, it'd be like, whatever, I can deal with it, yo. But like, dude, he's messed with innocent kids, and it's not fair. Like, it's not fair at all. Sorry, I'm rambling a lot, and if this is not making sense, I'm sorry. But Bryan owned this management company called Talent Shop. Austin Jones was one of Bryan's clients. He sent in a list to Warped Tour of people he thought would fit the Warped Tour YouTubers program. All these people, by the way, were clients of Bryan. I even emailed to Kevin because I thought that was really, I thought he was taking advantage. You know what I mean? It's like, Kevin looked at Bryan and was like, oh, this guy knows what's up. He knows what's going on. Like, he has my best interest in mind. And then Bryan sent him a list of people that he would make money off of. He didn't give him YouTubers that would help Warped Tour. He gave him a list of YouTubers that would help himself, and he knew that I helped. I actually am like in so many videos with Bryan, and I'm always the thumbnail. So that's the only reason why I even was like recommended, because he was like, oh, well, that would help the content. I have to get content out. And he even told me, he's like, oh, the videos with you are so funny, blah, blah, blah. I didn't benefit him money-wise, but I did because I was in so many videos, and I was like the entertainment. I was like the talent of his videos. I was the only person on the Warped YouTube program that was actually not signed from Bryan, and that did not give Bryan 20% of my income. Thank God. And one of the people was Austin Jones, and I called out Austin Jones because I thought what he was doing was really wrong. I don't think it's okay to ask little girls for videos of them shaking their ass. I have a younger sister. If he ever did that, I would be so, oh my God, I'd be so, but I was equally livid that he was other underage girls. I kind of just looked at all these people like they were my sister. I put it in perspective like that, and I was like, that's not okay. So I went on Twitter and I went crazy, and I'm sorry, but I'm actually not sorry because, dude, that's not cool. Well, I actually found out Bryan already knew. Bryan knew that Austin was doing this, but he didn't want to lose out on making money on Austin on the tour, because we were already announced as YouTubers on the tour. He told me that Austin has like really good merch and sells a lot of merch. So he knew if Austin Jones was on Warped Tour, he'd make a lot of money off Austin. So he was going to keep it low key, and not let anyone know that he knew this, just so he could benefit himself. That's how much he cares about money. He will literally support someone who's like taking advantage of young girls for their own sexual gain just because he wants money. Like, he'll let that slide. That's not okay. I was actually taken off of Warped Tour along with Austin Jones, and I just thought it was so unfair. I was like, I'm getting treated like the monster. I was actually getting treated worse than Austin Jones was getting treated. They were like saying I was gonna get put in jail for like slandering someone, blah, 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 and like harassment and stuff. And I'm like, dude, this guy asked underage girls for videos constantly and would say he would do it because he was horny and it would get him off. Like, why are you not putting the focus on this creep? Why is the focus being put on me? I was just so upset because I was like, people are expecting me to be here, and now I got kicked off. So I had to go drive to the office and beg to be put back on. And finally I was put back on, and I was just treated so weirdly, and I'm over that situation. But what bothers me the most is that Bryan knew about this, and he was gonna keep it low key just because he wanted to make money. During the third time when he asked me to join MDE, it was right after I called Austin Jones out. And I was just like, dude, I just called out one of your members. I got him pretty much removed, and now you want me to replace him? That just looks so awful, first of all. It looks like I just like did this just to join MDE, which was not the case at all. I didn't want anything to do with it. I loved the people on it. I did not want to work with Bryan. I knew that since 2013. I don't want to work for Bryan. But anyways, he actually sat me down. There was Johnny, I was in the center, Bryan was right here. Bryan was drunk because Bryan is drunk a lot. He sat me down, and like I said, he's a very manipulative person. Once he wants something, he wants it. And he started off just saying, hey, you should join MDE, blah, blah, blah. Like, everyone wants you to. Like, everyone will love it. Like, Johnny would love it, blah, blah, blah. They love you. Like, they look up to you. And then I was like, oh, no, just not right now. I'm not really posting videos, because there was a long time where I was very scared to post videos. I had all this anxiety issues about YouTube and just putting myself out there. And like, there's times where I just wouldn't even leave my house. So it's like, I couldn't even post my own videos. So I was just like, I don't know. Like, there's just so much pressure, and he just kept going. And then he started getting really aggressive with me. He told me I would never amount to anything if I didn't join MDE. This is the biggest thing I have going for me. And that's the same thing he did about the Bryan Stars tour when I said no. He was like, oh, this is huge. This is like the biggest opportunity you're ever gonna get. And that's what Bryan will do. He'll try to hype it up and make it seem like it's really gonna help you, really gonna benefit you, but really it's just gonna benefit him. He's just a very money hungry and manipulative person, and I just try to like ignore it and just try to be like, that's just business, Bryan. I don't like business Bryan, but I like Bryan, but I never got to hang out with Bryan. I always saw business Bryan. When I hung out with Bryan, he put me on videos constantly. The camera never went off, and then I was his thumbnail, his title. Anytime he hit me up, it was like, hey, can you give me the contact to your merch designer? Hey, can you give me the contact to the person, the manufacturer that manufactures your merch? Can you come over and film a whole bunch of videos? And there was one time where I went over and I filmed all day for a Bryan and Johnny series video, which was like a series he was doing. And then that night after it was over, he wanted me to film another video for his channel, but then he was like, oh, I'm too tired. And then I was kind of tired too. So I was just kind of chilling, relaxing, because I helped him out for this video all day. And then he was like, so are you gonna go home now? What are you gonna do? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess I'll go home. And then he was like, oh, by the way, Johnny, come to my room. Like, I want to talk about the contract stuff. And then he was pushing the contract stuff on Johnny. And throughout all this, I just always felt so bad for Johnny, because Johnny was like, I met Johnny as a fan, and he was such a nice kid. He was always so supportive. And I just felt like he was really being taken advantage by Bryan, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like, on tour, like, even the first year, I mean, Bryan got Johnny on tour as a merch person, and then eventually he just became like a talent and was like at the meet and greets. Bryan would always be like, hey, can you retweet this, do this, do this? And then if Johnny didn't want to do it, he'd be like, dude, after all I've done for you, like I got you on this tour, like I've done this, this, this. And he would throw it in his face of all the things he's done for him just to guilt him into doing it. And then this last tour with all of his clients, I would just sit there and be like, oh my God, I'm so happy that I'm not, like, I never regretted my decision of declining being an MD. Yeah, it would have brought me exposure. Yeah, maybe I would be more relevant on YouTube right now. Yeah, but what for? Like, look at it now. Like, I knew how it would play out. Like, I knew Bryan wasn't a good person. I knew Bryan was money hungry. I knew he puts all this stuff before, but I just wanted to see the good in him. I always wanted to see the good in him. But during this, every day, he would just always constantly be like, you guys have to do this. You have to do this, 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 this. You guys need to do a video of you guys doing this. You guys should kiss. You guys should do this. Like, he was always forcing them to do videos that they didn't even really want to do. He was always controlling what they did and said, and he was always just bossing them around every single day. Like, these were his little puppets. Like, they were forced to do whatever he wanted them to do, and it would just benefit himself, and I felt really bad for them. I knew it would be bad, but I didn't think it'd be like this. I really didn't think it'd be like this, because I saw it going really well, and I was like, oh my God, you know, maybe they need Bryan. Like, he's keeping it in line, like he's doing his thing, like maybe they do need Bryan, maybe it's okay. But after being on tour with them and a few other clients and becoming, I say clients because that's what they were clients. It wasn't friends, because a lot of people on the internet, they're always like, Bryan Stars hangs out with teenage kids now, it's so weird. Like, he hangs out with little kids. He didn't hang out with them. He lived with one, yeah, he was 17. Actually, when they first moved in together, he was 15. Yeah, it is kind of weird, I guess it's kind of weird, but he didn't hang out with them. I would go over there and he'd always be in his room. He never really talked to anyone unless it was about money, views, business, MDE, whatever. He just used these people to make money off of them. They weren't friends to him. They never were friends to him, and I was never a friend to him. And I know this video is just gonna ruin my friendship with Bryan, but it never existed. Bryan doesn't have genuine friends, and that always bummed me out, because I'd be like, Bryan, let's just like hang out as friends. Let's have a good time. I just want to be your friend. And anytime you call me, it'd be about something. Recently, the most recent call was like last month, I think. He called acting like he was just seeing how I was doing. He's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, oh my God, Bryan's like catching up with me. I feel really happy. Like, he cares about me. Like, he's trying to see what I'm up to. Slowly but surely during the conversation, I suddenly realized it was for one reason, and it was because I called out, I know, I seem like I just call out everyone. I've only called out 2 people on the internet, and this is the second one, Chris O'Fling. I called out Chris O'Fling because Chris O'Fling, Oh, Chris O'Fling, Chris. Him and his girlfriend faked an assault video where he said, "This is a real video that really happened."
Stop! Kenzie, leave! Stop! Kenzie! Oh my God! Stop!
And then it wasn't real. It was all staged. Chris is kind of like Bryan, and that's why I don't see this channel going very well, because Chris is one of the new members in MDE. I didn't know this during the phone call, but I kind of figured something was going on because he kept bringing up Chris, but I'll talk about that in a second. Assault isn't something to joke about. Like, there's things you joke about, there's things you don't joke about. You don't joke about rape, which I will talk about that in a second with Chris O'Fling, and you don't joke about sexual assault. You don't joke about depression. You don't joke about things that are serious and people are actually damaged for. You know what I'm saying? He used these serious situations as ways to exploit and like make money off of them.
You're okay, you're okay.
When you see someone that you love grabbed by someone in a way that's just disgusting. That was the only part that really bothered me.
He's very similar to Bryan. He's very similar. He'll use anyone and everyone, do anything and everything to get views and money, and that's why I don't see this channel going anywhere. But anyways, I called Chris out. I was like, this is not okay. And then later, Chris did a video where he lied about getting raped by a girl, and I know the girl, and I knew him when he started talking to this girl, and he would brag about being sexual with her, and it was fake. He lied about being raped by a girl, like, oh my God, a guy got raped by a girl. Like, people are gonna be so shocked. It's gonna get so many views, so much attention. If you go to his YouTube channel, it explains itself. He'll do things really extreme to get views. That's all he cares about. Bryan was on the phone with me and be like, hey, like, Chris is a great kid. Like, you should call him. Like, you should meet up with him. He kept talking about Chris, and then eventually I was like, Bryan, like, are you just calling me because you're like working with Chris and you're trying to defend him? Like, do you manage him now? Like, is he on your management company? Like, what is this? Is it like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, no. It's just like, you guys are both, you know, good friends of mine. Like, I just, you know, I don't want beef between my two good friends. And I was like, do you know Chris? And he's like, I did a video with him once, like, he's a great kid. And then I started thinking, I was like, okay, he's definitely about to work with him. And then I found out he's on the new collab channel. I was like, this all makes sense. This is way longer than I wanted it to be. All I'm trying to say is Bryan is not a good person, and I don't ever want to be associated with him ever again. It's someone who I really try to see the good in for so long, but he's done terrible things, and he took a channel away from people that put hard work into it and just replaced it with a bunch of other members. And it kind of bothers me because a lot of these members were friends with him, which sucks. It's like their friends are like screwing them over too, which really bothers me as well. Another thing about MDE is if you guys watch that channel, you probably noticed that Social Repos and Eugenia and Chris were featured on that channel a lot. That's because he managed them and he was trying to push them to make them more money and more exposure, because then it would benefit him. A lot of the MDE channel was all ran by Bryan, and it was ran by Bryan, and everything was ran to benefit Bryan. Like, other people had no say. They had no say of Richie being on the channel. They had no say of, you know, Eugenia being on the channel constantly. It was just because Bryan was like, oh my God, I have this channel with a ton of subscribers. I can sign them to my management company, and it could be like an incentive. Like, I could be like, hey, if you sign to me, I'll put you on MDE constantly. I'll grow your channel, blah, blah, blah. And he did it, and then it would benefit himself. Everything he does is to benefit himself. MDE 2.0 is to benefit himself, and all of you guys joining it are just feeding his bank account, and you're just gonna get treated the same way I've been treated. You're gonna get treated the same way Johnny, Alex, Jordan, Jaden, and Kyle have been treated. And did I say Shannon? And Shannon as well. She joined later. People don't change overnight. He's a manipulative, controlling, money-hungry, view-hungry, fucking attention whore. He's not gonna change. Go look at his merch store. Like, have you seen his merch store? He has a shirt that literally, oh my God, he has a shirt that he sells that says self-harm. Like, he's trying to make money off people who self-harm. Self-harm isn't something you joke about. It's not something you try to make money off of. Like, he doesn't have morals. He'll do anything and everything to make money. And that's where it's like, it crosses the line, bro. There's fucking boundaries in business. If you're gonna like use something as serious as self-harm to benefit yourself, that's where you fucking cross the line, and you really need a reality check. And I hope this is it, because I know Bryan, dude, I know deep down inside, I know you're watching this, I know deep down inside you can be a good person, but you haven't been for a very long time. You've let money take over, and I really wish you could see something else in the world, because there's so much beautiful things to focus on. I just really feel for you guys, MDE original members. I'm so sorry you went through this. The bright side is, you know, we're all here, we're all able to make videos, we're all able to have fun, and YouTube can be a fun place, so don't let this get you down. Don't let Bryans in the world destroy you from being creative and having fun and really enjoying the things you enjoy, you know? Alright, I'll see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace skis.